Hi class, this is going to be a video about Shakespeare and kind of introducing you to the historical context of sonnets as well as their form. So let me go ahead and turn to Canvas. Okay, so if you notice in week two, I've included a bunch of different materials for context before you read the sonnets. So do make sure you check out these videos. The first one really gives you an overview of the historical and cultural surroundings of sonnets and their form, especially the Petrarchan sonnet. This one is kind of a rapping in sonnets and talking about their form. It's pretty fun. And then this hip hop and Shakespeare one is a TED talk that's really amazing. You should definitely watch it, at least the first like 10 minutes. Okay, so definitely make sure you check those out. Also, I've included a worksheet that talks about the forms of a Petrarchan sonnet and a Shakespearean sonnet. These are the two major forms. The Petrarchan is the more traditional sonnet, and then Shakespeare put his own twist on it in the late 1600s, and this is the one we know today. So when you're looking at sonnet forms, just to give you a little overview. You're not expected to know this stuff, so I just wanted to give you a visual of it. Now, going to week two notes, this is where I really sort of explain some context of Shakespeare in the first slide, which I'm going to show you in a moment. Okay, so basically, sonnets start with Petrarch, and he was an Italian, and it's kind of where the whole idea of romance comes from. I mean, Petrarch pretty much invented this idea. Now, it's got a twisted past, though, because Petrarch was a bit of a weirdo and a creeper. So Petrarch kind of was obsessed with this very young girl that he didn't know. He just kind of saw her and became obsessed and wrote a ton of sonnets about her. And it was creepy. And so sonnets kind of were known as this romantic thing that was the ode to the woman, right? And it really played on these tropes of the pale, frail, near-death, powerless female that men would worship, which, you know, Shakespeare comes along in the late 1600s and he really like rebels against the sonnet form, which is funny because like when I was in high school, the way Shakespeare was taught was very much like Petrarch, like this romantic, right? And he's not, like he's a trickster. So he actually in his poems, he makes fun of other poets. He makes fun of the monarchy. He makes fun of the queen. He really is a jokester. He did believe, however, that poetry is the way to have eternal life. A lot of artists believe this. And you have to remember that Shakespeare's time was the Renaissance, which really was a period of existentialism. A lot of people were talking about what is my place in the universe, like who am I, what is my purpose, really asking these higher life questions and higher meaning questions, again, in kind of this existentialist way, trying to figure out their purpose and really seeking beauty through art. And so anyway, so it was really a big time of rebellion. And so, you know, Shakespeare really plays with that. The one thing that is consistent is Shakespeare's sonnets are all 14 lines, the same as Petrarch, but it is an iambic pentameter. So you don't need to know that. That's not something I'm expecting you to understand. But I just wanted to give you a little preview. If you watch the videos, they'll explain this in more depth. The other thing is, as I've told you, you never want to assume that Shakespeare is the speaker in his poems, right? It's not necessarily the case. And so he's not professing his love to some woman. Shakespeare was gay, by the way. So that's another thing that people don't really realize. Shakespeare was not straight. And he often was writing about men. So again, do not assume that they're love poems about women from the voice of Shakespeare. But in all sonnets and most poetry, there is a consistent theme of there's a problem, and at the end there's a solution. And this is called the turn or the volta. So I'm going to show you an example. So here's a Shakespeare sonnet. This is Sonnet 138. So Shakespeare sonnets, you can either refer to them as Sonnet 138, meaning this is 138th sonnet that he wrote. So it goes in order. Or you can refer to it by the first line of the poem or the sonnet, however you want to do it. But remember, all poems and sonnets are put in quotation marks in MLA formatting, okay? So as you see, I've already numbered the lines, and this is consistent, right? It's all 14 lines. Now, when we get to the rhyming, that's where it becomes a little bit tricky. So I just want to pull your attention back really quick to the sonnet forms worksheet. So you see how there's this A, B, A, B, C, D, blah, 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 right? So what this means is that these are all end rhymes. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Shakespeare really quick. So when you're talking about end rhymes, it's always the last word in the line. So I'm going to do it with you. Let's start with the first one. So when my love swears that she's made of truth, truth is its first rhyme. That's A, okay? Now, I do believe her, though I know she lies. Does lies rhyme with truth? It doesn't, so we give this one a B. You go in alphabetical order as you're counting the rhymes. Okay, that she might think me some untutored youth. Youth rhymes with truth, so A, okay? Unlearned in the world's false subtleties. So this is an off rhyme, right? Subtle ties, lies. So it's still a B, though keep in mind and remember, that's an off rhyme, right? So you definitely want to keep that in mind, all right? Okay, young does not rhyme with youth or truth, so, or subtleties or lies. So this is a C. It's a completely new rhyme scheme. Although she knows my days are past their best, does best rhyme with anything? Young, subtleties, no. So this is a D. Simply I credit her false speaking tongue. Does tongue rhyme with best or young? Young, so C. Suppressed rhymes with best, D. Unjust, this is a new one, so this would be E. Does old rhyme with any of these? No, so this would be an F. Trust, unjust, so E. Told rhymes with old, so this would be an F. And then me is new, so this would be a G. And B rhymes with me, so G. So this is the rhyme scheme. A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, G, G, right? And let's go back and look. Yep, it lines up. Now, remember I told you that there was this kind of turn? So it's also called the rhyming couplet. So this is the turn. Or if you want to make it simple, this is the solution, right? To whatever issue is being expressed up here, these two sort of provide the solution, right? So, okay. So also you kind of want to look at the end rhymes and see if there's any kind of connection, right? So truth and youth, that's interesting. So truth and youth, lies, and subtleties. So there's something about this off rhyme that you might want to pay attention. Subtle lies, maybe. Young and tongue. So young tongue, that's interesting. Best and suppressed. It's best suppressed. So Shakespeare, like I said, is a trickster, so just pay attention to this stuff. Unjust and trust. Interesting. Old and told. And then me and B. So again, when you're looking at Shakespeare, you really want to look at these words. And as you're diving into this poem, and I'm going to discuss it in the next video, you really want to go line by line and just come up with what you think a summary of that line is. Okay? Okay, so in the next video, I'm going to break down an actual poem. So I hope this was helpful.